Are you ready to hunt the tops here? Now, I know we're not at the tops yet, but we do need to find areas where we think that they might lie so that when they come, we are prepared to potentially take profit if that is our goal. If that is not our goal, we'll just understand that that is an area where it could potentially turn on us and start coming back down, where we could potentially maybe even fill our bags a little bit more on some of these miners if that is your plan. My plan is to find an area to sell for the summer and then hibernate until October, and then come back in for the winter Q4 rally. That's what my personal plan is. And of course, none of this is financial advice or a suggestion to buy, sell, or hold any asset whatsoever. Anyways, the Ethereum ETF is launching next week on July 23rd. So keep your eyes out on the price action of Ethereum, because that is going to have a direct impact on Bit Digital, which is one of our favorite stocks here on Trade Cave. Now, the other thing, let's take a look at the economic calendar. So Thursday is a big day, initial jobless claims. That's going to be a big one for the week, especially if you're in bonds. And I'll tell you something, I just got into some bonds just this morning in the pre-market. I bought a little bit of some bonds here. So we'll take a look at that as well near the end of the video, as well as some of our favorite tickers that have been taken off lately. We're going to take a little bit of a look at those as well. But let's start with Bitcoin. All right, Bitcoin had this nice big run up. We are coming up on this support that is back here around that 62,007 to 62,006 range here. We tapped the top of this descending channel that we were in for a while. As long as we can stay above this thing. Now, the fact that today's candle tapped it means that we are not solidly out of it. We need to see today's candle close above it and tomorrow's candle open above this this channel here to feel like we are out of it, or at least have a chance out of it and a chance to run up to the high 60s, low 70s, maybe even take out the previous all-time high. That's what we're looking for here. We're looking for some sort of structure, probably something like this right here, so we can have like a head and shoulders. So we got a shoulder, a head, and then another shoulder here. And we want to see this kind of bleed up into these areas up above here for Bitcoin right now. To the downside, I mean, honestly, if we get anywhere below like $62,000, there's a very good chance we could come back down and test the high 50s once more on Bitcoin. But we did have a pretty significant shift here. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some flagging here, like a bull flag, and then take off from there. That wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. But what a fake out with those tweezers. Wow. So let's turn on some of our, so we got a little bit of room here. We're at the top of the ATR bands. The fib clouds don't get too frothy till we get all the way up to 77,000. And the big one up here, the big cloud here, which we tend to go to the top of before. Like we go to the top and we hang out in this maroon area here. It does happen. That is all the way up at almost $90,000 right now. The top of that, we could be ranging between 90 and 80 if we get up into the upper edges of the fib clouds here that I've got up atop here. All right, let's take a look at miners. So yesterday was huge for the miners. It was outrageous. If you were in the miners, I mean, my whole portfolio was up over 15% yesterday. That was insane. That was so much money. It was amazing. I did sell out of my short-term Mara calls. So I had some Mara calls that were out a few months because I was expecting that coil to do an upward explosion in price for Mara. Now, I do think Mara could likely see some further upward movement. I don't know if it will or not, but I do think it could. I do really think that it could. And let me turn on the pre-market. Here we go. Pre and post value line. Okay. I do think we could see it continue to move up, but I had seen profits and they were shorter term. They were just a few months out. So I decided I would take that profit off the table for my short term Mara calls. I also closed my calls on BitX. I am holding a runner to see where that goes. That's the 2X Bitcoin futures fund. I am holding a runner on that to see where it will go, but I did close out the calls that I have had on it. And I've been buying all the way down as Bitcoin has been coming down those calls. And I would bought them out to late September. So I've got like another few weeks before I really need to close my runner as well. Anyways, CleanSpark up 15%. Where could we potentially see this run going here? Now we need to get over $22 still. Okay, so we closed yesterday over 18. If we can open right now, we're at 18.32. If we can open over 18 today, that is a good sign. Even if we go flat today, opening above and staying above 18 would be an amazing sign that we are very likely going to be moving up to 21.36 soon and take out this previous high here from April. All right, what I really want to see next for CleanSpark is to take out this high back here from March, which is up at 24.74. I really want to see it get above that, and I really think it can, because honestly, the last two big run-ups, the price for CleanSpark, honestly, the last three decent run-ups for CleanSpark, the price went well into these fib clouds. They went all the way to the top, and then sometimes, in the case of February, it breached above the fib cloud here. And if we were just to reach the bottom of that fib cloud here, we are coming up to the top here, back here, which is at that 24, that high 24 level on CleanSpark. So I am honestly looking for CleanSpark in this run. I would like to see CleanSpark come up to about $31, maybe even $32 from its current area before it stops running. Now, that needs to happen in the next 4 weeks. If it doesn't happen in the next 4 weeks, we'll be waiting until around, November, late October, November, to see prices up in the 30s. So keep that in mind. This is on a time limit. The summer run is now, if it's happening. And I do think it's happening. It's happened on other miners. It happened on the non-HODL crew. It may be happening on the HODL crew now. There's also something about IREN I'd like to talk about here later when it comes up that was a little bit interesting that I didn't particularly like about it in yesterday's price action. So that is what I'm looking at for CleanSpark right now. It's coming out of this coil. This is a gap up and go situation. If we can keep the momentum on CleanSpark, if it can stay above $18, this right here, yesterday's candle, that is a gap up and go situation, similar to like back here, right? This was February 8th, right? We gapped up. Let me turn off this so you can see the price action just purely here. We gapped up, and then we gapped up again, and then we just ran with it. I'm looking for some sort of situation like that, a gap up and go, a gap up, and then take us up over 21. We get over 21 in the next couple of days, and I'll be looking forward to take out this high here later in the month for CleanSpark. All right, let's take a look at Mara, since we talked about it here for a moment. That is not Mara. There it is. Mara was up yesterday. It was up 18.38%. Again, huge move. If we can hold above 22.75 today, which I'm pretty sure we're going to open above it. The pre-market's at 24.33. If we can hold in this area and flag a little bit on Mara, we could totally see this thing coming back up to the top of this ascending channel, which right now would be at $29. And then from there, let's see here. Again, just like with CleanSpark, right? It comes up to the top of the fib clouds right here, especially into the maroon, sometimes going above the maroon. If we just go to the top of the maroon part of the fib cloud right now, that is $36.62. Honestly, I do think this could probably pull off a high 38. And if it crosses $39, like if you see Mara go over $39, I would not be surprised at all if it went up and tapped $40 before this run was over. And again, this would be, if it's going to happen this summer, it's going to happen in the next 4 weeks, because the back half of August into September is probably going to be a bit rocky. Now, if we get a rate cut in September, now that might send this thing flying even higher for a little while before an October crash. But yeah, like a rate cut comes through, all that is thrown to the wayside, and it's just going to go up for a short period of time, of course, because well, maybe not. We might see something different happen this time with the rate cuts, because usually they cut out of distress. And this time it appears that the Fed may be cutting from a position of strength versus weakness. So that would be a very interesting dynamic that we have not seen, I don't think, in a very, very long time for the Fed. So that might make our general playbook for the interest rate cuts, that might throw it out of whack here. Anyways, so Marathon, we're up above the ATR band, so it does need to cool off a little bit here. This yellow, the yellow and the blue band do need to start curling up and meet somewhere around here. I bet you the 5 is probably way down there. Oh yeah, the 5 is way down there. This is green one. It's under the yellow one. It's at 20.46 right now. So that 5-day moving average needs to catch up here. So we should probably flag for a little bit, and then we can see ourselves move up again. I might reload up on calls if I see a bull flag from Mara's position here, and just play those out until October potentially, and maybe sell them anytime I see it over $30 for Marathon. But I am looking for a top, honestly, in the high 30s, possibly even $40 on Mara here. Let's take a look at Riot. Riot actually made a move yesterday. It was up 17%. This is the best move we've seen out of Riot in a long time. In the pre-market, it is holding that move. That is excellent here. Again, on Riot, it's been getting lower every time. It's been peaking since last July. It's been a little bit lower, and I'm expecting that to continue for Riot. Honestly, Riot hasn't gotten into the maroon shade up here of my fib cloud since July of last year. And before that, it was going way above it. And then it started barely getting into this red, right? And then it didn't even get into the red here in February. So I wouldn't expect it to go much higher than 16 to maybe 17 or $18. I think 18 is the very tippy top we're going to see right now before like the big run up for Riot. So like in this current cycle that I'm thinking about right now, like this 2024 summer run going into Q4 sort of period of time for Riot, I don't see it going any higher than $18 right now. That is my personal opinion on that. Go ahead and let me know what you think in the comments about that specifically. All right, let's move on to Bit Digital. What's going on with Bit Digital? So Bit Digital is already in my fib clouds. Oof, it's already touching that maroon area here. It hasn't really gone and broken above the fib clouds since since around June of 2023. It does have definitely the potential to break above that. I am looking more, so on Bit Digital, it's a little bit of a different animal. So on Bit Digital, I'm actually looking more at the weekly 200. So if I go to my SMA4, turn that on, the daily 200 is way down here. But if I turn this onto a weekly chart, yeah, there's the weekly 200 up at about $5. I am looking for it to hit $5. If we get a bit of a squeeze off of this thing, I would be looking for it to touch this trend line up here, this yellow one, which if it does it in the next couple of weeks, it could go as high as 585. So it could go up into the high fives. That's what I'm looking at for Bit Digital. It likes to come up. See how it's done it the last couple of times? Right? It came up, nearly touched the 200 week, and then it came all the way down. And then it went all the way back up, just barely got above the 200 week, barely was able to hold it for a couple of days, and then came all the way back down. I think we're going to see that maybe for like a day or two. So if you see it go up and above the 200 week moving average, which is currently at 511, right? If you see it go up and above that and then come back down like within a day, I would be looking at that as a blow off top, and I would be exiting my positions of Bit Digital for the short term period, looking for it to come back down probably to about $3 before I'd start picking it back up again in October sometime. That is my game plan on Bit Digital right now. I think that it's got the momentum. I think we could see this thing potentially run up a bit higher there. And I mean, the clouds, the fib clouds are way up here on it. I don't see that happening I don't see that happening until much later in the cycle. I mean, it could happen. That'd be crazy. I'd be in love with that. That'd be amazing. Anyway, so yeah, I'd be looking at it around that. I'd be looking for it to peak up above the fib clouds here, get up to about 5, maybe even make a new slightly higher high than this one back here, right? So like maybe it can come up to 550, 560. That's what I'm looking at for Bit Digital. I'm looking for it to do a little bit into that higher to mid to high fives for Bit Digital this cycle before, coming back down kind of dramatically for the winter term, the bear months, September, October. Again, a rate cut could send us flying higher on some of these. So keep your eyes on that. Like it could come up to here and then start coming back down to like $4, and then in late September we get that rate cut and it goes right back up to like $7, $8. Like that could happen. So keep that in the back of your mind. I don't think I'll like empty all my bags. Bit Farms. Let's see, what are we looking at Bit Farms? So Bit Farms was up 9.49%. I didn't mention how far up Bit Digital was yesterday. It was up a significant amount. Okay, it was also up like 9%. It doesn't matter. It was up a lot. Everything was up a lot. So we are outside of this descending channel here on Bit Farms. We are still touching it from yesterday's candle. Now, we are going to open up above this thing today, it looks like. We're at 283 in the pre-market. So this could open up above that. This could be a gap up and go situation where we come all the way back up to $3 and then very, very quickly and see ourselves maybe peaking up above it and testing these previous highs from back here around the 323 to 328 range. On Bit Farms, for the upper range here, again, I'm looking at the daily fib cloud up here. I am looking at it to come up to around like the high four, the mid to the low to mid fours for Bit Farms before it starts to make a run back down. Now, if we come over here, we turn off my indicator, you can see that we are looking at a bit of a cup and handle right here. So we got the cup. This is the handle. We just broke the handle. Our next obstacle is 316. We get above 316. We are opened up to that $4 level and above on Bit Farms. So this could very, very quickly become a $4, $5 stock for us here for Bit Farms. So I am looking at that. for my top area. The low to mid 4s, I'll probably start taking some profit around, just around this top here, around like just under $4, and then a little bit, maybe a few hundred shares, and then like maybe like another 1,000 shares around like 415, 420 ish area, and then like if it hits like $5, then I'll unload like a little bit more of my shares of Bit Farms for this cycle, because I'm doing swing trades on these. Okay, I'm swinging these things, so they go up. Right? They go up to their highs here. In this case, back in March, it was $4, and I would sell. And I didn't sell all of it. I think I sold like half. And then it came all the way back down. I started buying again around $2, and I bought all the way down to 150, right? And honestly, I kept buying as it came all the way back up to about 220, 225. And then I started waiting. And once it got there, I'm just watching now and waiting for it to come back up to around this $4 area where I'll start selling again, and waiting for it to come back down around sometime around October. I'd expect it to come back down to like $3, maybe even $2 again at that time. And then I'd load up one more time for the big move that I'm expecting to come later in the year, and potentially going into next year as well. Right. What is the next one? Let's look at IREN. IREN was concerning me yesterday, so this is my concern with IREN. Yesterday, it was down 2.56%. When everything else was up double digits, IREN was diverging from the crowd yesterday. I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I also don't like this 3-candle formation here, right? So we had a big red candle followed by a mid-sized green candle, and then yesterday we had another red candle. If today we do not get above this candle here, like this 1296 area, if we can't get above that and hold that, I'm going to be a little bit concerned short term in terms of where IREN is going to go. I am very closely watching that $11.26 level for IREN. If it closes beneath that, it's quickly going to come down into that 960, 970 range where there is light support, not a ton, light support. We don't get heavier support till we come all the way down to $8 on IREN. So I am still of the mind that IREN could potentially see $8 before it sees, $20 or something like that, or like 16 again, right? I think it could potentially see $8 before it sees 16 again, based on what I'm looking at. Now, that could change. That could change. If we can close up, if we can get back above like 1450 on IREN, then my tune will change. And I'll say, yeah, we're very likely going to go back up to highs if we can get above 1450. But if we continue to just like vacillate here, testing this area down here, the more we test this 1126 level, the more likely it is to break. And when it breaks, and the longer it takes to break, the further it's going to come down when it does. Now, on the top end, let's look at a top end for this guy. All right, top end for IREN. We're kind of at it. Honestly, we're kind of at it for IREN. I would be looking for potentially like 1650 would be a high I'd be looking at right now. I mean, it had its run. It had its summer run. It's time to cool off a little bit. It could be, yeah. So I could see it do like 1650, maybe come up to like $17, $18. And that would be where I'd be looking at IREN as like a high for this like current cycle before waiting for it to come back down in, late September, October range. Now, again, like I said, with pretty much every other one, if the Fed gives us that rate cut in September, we're going to see a sugar rush of money coming into these stocks around that time. It might not last long, but we would see a few days of sustained buying. That would be pretty dramatic on these things when that happens. All right, CORZ. CORZ went up a tiny bit yesterday. It was up 1.54%. The non-hodl crew is having a bit of a tough time holding its own with the hodl crew right now, especially as Bitcoin is rallying and they've got their treasuries that are supporting their prices going higher. CORZ. Honestly, this is kind of a confusing chart. There's not much I'm seeing right here to look at, to be honest. Let me go down to a 4-hour. All right. We're coming up on the top of the range here. This could end up being like an island reversal if we lose this. Like if we open up anywhere below like 1039 in the next couple of days, we find ourselves down here. There's a lot of support down here at this $9 level for CORZ. I think it's showing a lot more strength than IREN. So I think we could see it hang out in this area right here, come maybe down to like 938, and then on the top end, I mean $15, maybe more for CORZ. CORZ is so much harder to say anything about because it's got so little history. And if we establish support right here at the $9 level, we don't know where it could go above. The fib clouds are showing about 15 as an upper end, but again, I don't know. That could just be the beginning for CORZ. I have no clue for CORZ. It's got so little history, honestly. Let's take a look at WULF. All right, WULF. Top end of WULF. WULF's at the top. Honestly, WULF's at its top area here for now. I think Wolf needs to flag for a while, reset some of its momentum, and then continue on just like it did back here from July 8th until like the 11th, and then it got that momentum back again. It is increasing at a small rate. The volume is growing a little bit here. You can see it. Let me make that a little bit bigger. So volume is growing. That is good. We are overbought, but it can stay overbought for a while. We're at the top of the ATR. We're at the top of the fib bands. I would want to see it at least come back down into this red area around 491 before continuing back up again on Wolf. But if we lose this, like if we lose this, the red part of this fib cloud right here, this starts to look like a double top, top, this midline right here around 470. We lose that, I would be looking at this to come quickly down to like 370, maybe even down to 330. But it doesn't look weak right now. Like it looks like it could continue to kind of like charge up where it currently is. And that would be an interesting move for Wolf. CIFR, what was going on with CIFR yesterday? CIFR was up. Oh, today's up 5%. Yesterday it was up 3.6%. It's up 5% today. This thing is taking off above the fib bands. Honestly, I think CIFR's around its topping area. I would be looking for it to start to turn around. Honestly, that's a 4 hour, so that's probably wrong. Let me look here. No, even on the daily, it's around its topping area. I would look for CIFR to start making a little bit of a turnaround pretty soon here. It was up 30% yesterday, almost 27.78% yesterday. It's up another 6% today. It could come down. I would like to see it coming down a little bit, maybe create support out of this green line here. It did get above that green line of resistance, so that's pretty good. CIFR right now, yeah, it's in its area. It could come up to 750 before hitting like strong resistance right now. But if we start to see it turn around, I wouldn't be super surprised by that on CIFR. I do like the chart that CIFR has been building. It has been getting higher at a nice consistent pace here. I do think that at some point soon we could see this thing coming all the way up to $9, and it could do it pretty fast. Honestly, I really like this formation on CIFR. I am looking for it to go from 6 to about 9 pretty quickly. The warrants have been going absolutely nuts. I wish I were still in them. It's okay. All right, let's move on to HIVE. HIVE was one that was brought up yesterday by a subscriber. HIVE. So there's a concerning thing about HIVE, and I'm going to draw a line right now that's going to illustrate that concern. Okay, let's draw this line right here, this line right here, right? And then I'm going to follow that up with this line right here. And then I'm going to follow that up with this line right here. Okay, that finally broke. But notice how each peak since August 2022, each peak has been lower. This one, I would expect it maybe to match it. So the current peak may be 459 before. It's got to get above 459 before I'm convinced that this thing's going to do anything higher than 459, right? So right now, 459, I'm looking at that as like a roof for HIVE right now, 459. Yeah, about 459. If it breaks that, I'd be looking at 574 and then 682 and then 751. There's a lot of resistance ahead of this thing is what I'm saying. So HIVE has basically the same kind of pattern that CIFR does, but opposite, like it's getting lower and lower over time, which I don't like. Now that doesn't mean that it couldn't revisit $11 or maybe even like, $10 or $15 here, but it does mean that since 2022, all we've seen are lower highs on HIVE. So that is a concern for me. And that keeps me away from HIVE specifically because of that. Now, that doesn't mean that it can't go higher. Like, I'm not saying it's not going to. All I'm saying is the risk for me in this high risk industry, the risk on HIVE is higher than the others based on this chart formation, its patterns, and that for me keeps me out of it. That doesn't mean it's a bad stock. That doesn't mean it's a bad investment. That does not mean that it cannot run up way higher than I said. It just simply means that for me, that risk is too high on HIVE for me. So I stay out of it. That's one of the reasons I'm not in CORZ as well. The risk is simply too high for me. That doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it. It just means that the risk for my personal preferences is too high. Anyways, that's that. Yeah, I'd be looking, 460s where the fib clouds at the bottom end start here. Last time we didn't even get halfway up to it. I'd be looking for, it's got to break that 459 before it's got any, convinces me at all that it's got any room anywhere, but it's got resistance every step of the way up. So it's going to be a fight for HIVE to get much higher. Oh, right. Let's take a look at, I said I was going to look at TMF. So I bought some TMF this morning for market open. Market just opened now, so a couple of minutes ago. So I did buy some today and it is up 2%. That's great. I like to see that. We are coming up on the 200-day moving average here, which is, not great. It does have room on the daily up to about 63, maybe even up to 70 here. I don't know how quickly that's going to happen. So with the bond, so this is a 3x leverage bond on the 20-year notes, right? Okay, so this thing's been in a very sustained downtrend for a really long time. We haven't seen prices this low. If you go look at TLT, so this is the leverage version of TLT. If you go look at TLT, we haven't seen prices this low since 2002. So 22 years of gains wiped out, basically. And we need to move all the way up to like $75 before we even meet the low end from the early 2000s here on this ticker. So that is my thesis here. Rate cuts are coming in soon. When those do, this thing's going to ramp up pretty quickly. Now, bonds are slow moving. If you do not have patience, this is not going to be a trade for you. I'm planning to be in this thing a minimum of probably about 18 months, maybe 24 months before I see this thing come up back into the hundreds. That's what I'm looking for on TMF. Over about 24 months, move from 50 into the hundreds. Get 100% gain in a year and a half, 2 years, which is pretty good. That's a pretty sick gain. Like, it's amazing. So this is for patience. This is something I'm kind of throwing in and not thinking about for another 6 months. I'll bring it up every once in a while to talk about where its movements are. But that's about it for TMF. Let's look at MSTR. How's my trade going on MSTR? Yesterday it was looking really, really good. What's it doing today? It's plus 0.2%. I'm almost to my upper green line here. I'm actually past the original green line that I had drawn. I had drawn it here at about 15.20 where I was going to take profit, but then it just shot right past it. So I raised it higher. And I'm holding on to this thing. If you remember, I got in just below this white line down here at 1271. I got just below that. I was looking around this orange area for some sort of resistance, which we saw it did hit it, and it did show a little bit of resistance there. And I did think like, I'd probably take profit at break even if it fails there. It didn't fail there. It continued to go up, and it is continuing to go up. Now, my current take profit area is 1728. If it blasts through 1728, I'm going to raise my take profit up to about $1,900 on this thing. So we are watching this go up. I'm currently up about $400 on this thing. I got in on July 8th. It is now July 16th, so it's been 8 days, and I'm up about $400 on this thing. So that's pretty great there for micro strategy. IWM, let's take a look at IWM real fast. This, I think, is going to be the last thing that we look at today. Specifically, IWM will not quit. It's at 220 now. Man, I wish I'd bought it down here at 203 when it was hanging out around my white line. This thing won't quit. I've been waiting for it to come back to the 5-day moving average, and it just refuses to do it. The 5-day moving average is now at 212. I don't know when this thing's going to stop, but it's a runaway freight train, and I'm not on it. I'm a little bit salty about that. I could have been on it so much, but I am waiting for the 5-day to catch up. I need to see this thing flag. It's at some point it's going to stop just charging up, and it's going to flag, and then it's going to come back up to that high again once it's done some cooling off here. So I'm not in this thing. It's taken off. If you're in this, congratulations. You're doing amazing right now. And that is that. All right. So that's all I've got for you today. Please like, comment, subscribe, share this video, and have a profitable day.